In China, the Communist Party is deeply intertwined with the national government. It seeks to foster a harmonious society through consultation with civil society. By involving citizen groups, the Communist Party aims to gauge the will of the people and make sure that its policies resonate with them. Importantly, it averts protests or unrest. Because the government responds or adapts to societal demands, scholars refer to this form of participation as authoritarian adaptation. In 2011, the city of Nanjing began cutting down its cherished plane trees to build highways and subways. Local residents began to take note. Wanting to preserve their cherished trees, they launched a public campaign, with some going so far as to protest. City officials took note and, in an effort to bring back calm, canceled some of the tree cutting. Officials also instituted a new mechanism for public participation in local environmental decision-making called the Green Assessment. Although the Green Assessment had limited immediate impact on green policies in Nanjing, it may have helped pave the way for stronger policies requiring citizen participation in environmental decision-making in Chinese cities. Today, for example, government officials in Shenzhen solicit citizen input into how the city will carry out its sponge city and carbon neutral mandates. You may have seen photos of or yourself experienced the horrible smog in northern Chinese cities, sometimes so bad that you can't see buildings a block away. But have you ever heard of the NGO Green Beagle Environmental Institute and its I Will Test the Air Quality for the Homeland campaign? In the early 2000s, despite increasingly hazy days, the Chinese government rated air quality as good or just fine. Then came the Olympic Games in 2008, and the US government decided to publish its own air quality data to alert American citizens. The American data included PM 2.5s, a fine particulate that damages lungs and hearts. Of course, this resulted in very different air quality ratings than government ratings without the PM 2.5s. When in 2011, Beijing experienced several instances of severe smog, the discrepancy between what citizens experienced and were reading about on the American embassy site and what the Beijing Environmental Protection Bureau was telling them caused a crisis of confidence. Green Beagle launched its I Will Test the Air Quality for the Homeland citizen monitoring campaign, which quickly grew to 20 cities. By the end of the year, 6 environmental NGOs, along with environmental scientists and media, were asked to make recommendations on a draft government air quality standard. And by 2012, PM 2.5s were included in the revised Chinese standard. The government also instituted policies to lower PM 2.5s, such as expanding public transit, charging emission fees, and closing over 1,200 polluting enterprises. What might account for the success of the environmental NGOs in changing air quality reporting policy in China? For one, Green Beagle formed a coalition with other environmental organizations. Coalitions are a critical aspect of advocacy in the West and in more authoritarian systems. This notion of coalitions is captured in the Advocacy Coalition framework of policy change. Green Beagle also encoded symbols from Chinese patriotism, culture, and history in its air quality monitoring campaign. It leveraged patriotism by asking citizens to monitor for the homeland. Supporting the campaign, Southern Weekly newspaper created visuals that incorporated red flags, as well as bodily gestures and facial expressions reminiscent of China's fight against Western capitalism. Although these symbols of China's past may have lost their popularity by 2011, their use and invoking the idea of monitoring air quality for the homeland reflect how Green Beagle cleverly drew on symbols that would resonate with, rather than raise the ire of, government officials. An even more fundamental policy change was launched to grant environmental NGOs the right to public interest litigation, that is, to bring legal action against polluters. Early attempts to legalize public litigation using a rights frame, that is, the right to litigation as a fundamental citizen right, and an international frame, China should be like other countries, raised opposition among government officials and failed. Then Friends of Nature and other environmental NGOs claimed that were the government to allow litigation, it could avoid unrest and maintain a harmonious society. According to Friends of Nature, if we block the judicial channels, more and more people would turn to non-institutionalized ways to solve the problem. At present, less than 1% of all environmental disputes have entered the legal system. The remaining 99% of the disputes are unstable social factors. Only by letting social factors participate effectively in environmental protection through lawful channels can environmental problems gradually be alleviated and social conflicts solved. After a multi-year struggle, NGOs were granted the right to file claims against polluters. As NGOs litigated in court, they contributed to new legislation, new opportunities for civil society organizations to influence policy, and new NGO alliances. Thus, advocacy not only forced changes in the judicial system, but also led to a strengthening of civil society organizations and their interactions with the state.